On July 7th, 2025, Uranus will enter Gemini for the first time in over 80 years. On November 8th, 2025, Uranus will then regress back into Taurus. And then on April 26th, 2026, Uranus will find its way back to Gemini, where it will remain for 8 years, my friends, till 2033. Now, I want to begin discussing, to the best of my ability and in as much detail as possible, some of these outer planet shifts and what I'm intuitively feeling now they may represent as far as a collective understanding and as far as a personal understanding. Now, Uranus has been quite a planet involving its story in Gemini throughout history. I'm not going to touch, or actually, I'm not sure how much I'm going to touch on legit, detailed historical data in this particular video. But I will touch on a few things that I think are very significant for this time specifically. I know there's a lot of other astrologers out there that are very deep in the historical facts. I will touch on a few things involving history, but honestly, you know me, guys. I want to get psycho-spiritual with you. I want to be able to talk about this in layman's terms so we can kind of unpack some of this stuff as time goes on, because trust me, this will not be the first time I talk about Uranus and Gemini. This is probably the first of many times I'm going to talk about Uranus and Gemini, of course, but I feel it's important for me to get at least my first purge of information out there for you guys, you know, because this is huge. Gemini is the sign of duality, okay? This is ruled by Mercury. This is mutable air. And when Uranus gets into Gemini, it's going to immediately start giving trines to Pluto and Aquarius. So the Gemini nature of our lives and whatever goes on in Gemini for you, whatever theme of life that is immediately going to start activating, shifting, and giving electric shocks to Pluto. Okay? So if you've been aware of what your Pluto and Aquarius story has been, then you're going to feel maybe this summer, 2025, is going to be the summer where things start radically changing and radically kind of bringing you things, whether this is intuitive insight or physical manifestations. Like, this is where the shit really hits the fan, okay? In a good way, in a negative way, in a way in which we need truth, okay? So truth is very much important in this first ingress of Uranus and Gemini. And I'm actually going to get into the Decans, of course, of Gemini in this video. And if you've been tracking with me in a lot of my recent videos, I do go down and explore the Decans. I explore the associated tarot cards that are associated with each decan. There's 3 tarot cards associated with each decan. And actually, the first decan of Gemini is ruled by Jupiter. So this first ingress on a collective level, we're dealing with some Jupiterian truth and wisdom. We're talking about fate versus free will here. Okay, and I'm going to get into more about the Decans a little bit later in this video, especially this decan, of course, the first decan of Gemini. But this trine, guys, like, this is really like one of the biggest moments of the year. What is the electrifying, shocking, the great disruptor, the great awakener planet, Uranus, going to do to Pluto in our lives? On the collective level, there's so much going on. We know when we look at the world stage, when we look at American politics, when we look at the world, okay, when we look what the people are crying out for, when we look to what governments are doing and the control or lack of control they are expressing and making very clear to everyone whether they have the control here or whether they not have control, or are they giving an illusion of control because they really realize they're starting to lose control and power. The age of Aquarius is about the people. Like, as much as government thinks they have a clamp on us, as much as they think they can control stuff, at the end of the day, through every Pluto and Aquarius transit in history, There was a massive transformation of consciousness. There was a rise of the people. There was the collective rising to the top and crushing systems that no longer served the people. Now, depending on what side of the political aisle you're on, everyone has a different version of what rising and falling of civilizations means. And this is where we find ourselves. And maybe this is also part of the major problems of our time, but also where it's going to lead into the biggest solutions of our time. And Uranus going into the sign of Gemini, duality, communication, intellectualism. We're talking about the way we speak and communicate, the way we think, and intellectualize things, and psychologize things too, of course. Anything that has to do with the mind and the way we speak, the duality of life. This is a powerful moment in time where we're going to have a bunch of mutable chaos for, I want to say, the first 3 years of this transit, because honestly, Pluto will pretty much be remained at 2 degrees, 3 degrees, 4 degrees, 5 degrees Aquarius, as Uranus makes its way further into Gemini, faster, of course, because Uranus travels faster than Pluto. So from 2025, and then when it finally locks into Gemini, April 2026, until June-ish, around June, mid 2028, that's when Uranus starts getting past 10 degrees into 11 degree territory, which is where the second decan of Gemini is. And by that time, those hard trines to Pluto will be sort of over. Okay, because these first 3 years is when Uranus and Pluto are going to be very much faced off in their most potent trines of the new era of fire and air. Okay. And as we've been talking about before, the age of fire and air is Neptune ingressing into a fire sign, obviously, Neptune into Aries, Pluto in Aquarius, and Uranus in Gemini. We have all the outer planets in air signs and one fire sign, which means fast moving change, fast moving everything. The world will be moving at lightning speed. There will be events unfolding on the world stage, potentially conflicts and war, which is something I may touch on very briefly in this video. And things are going to happen so fast, we're not going to know what hit us. But at the same time, we're going to be very aware, very awake, and we, the people, are going to be the forefront. We're going to be the ground crew for building a new world. And yes, we're going to have to go through some more muck on a collective level in order for us to build the new future that Pluto and Aquarius ultimately wants to birth in the highest good, from the highest perspectives of human evolution. Yes, there will be challenge. Yes, there will be troubles. But there will also be so many beautiful silver linings. There will be so much beautiful innovation and also the evolution of spiritual consciousness. Okay? There's so much coming. And in our own life, like I've said in every single video, guys, no matter what goes on in the world, we're going to be dealing with our own awakenings and our own transformations. And it's going to take a couple of years probably for us to stabilize and kind of get our feet on the ground and kind of know, okay, this is who I am now. This is the future I want for myself. This is the change and stuff that I've been trying to finally birth into existence. And it's all beginning now. It's all beginning now. So this is why I always invite you to meditate into these transits, to really think about these parts of your life. Think about Gemini. What story is playing out in that part of your life? And when I say story, I'm talking about, like, if you have Gemini in the 4th house, your story is all about family, your roots, your ancestry, dealing with childhood stuff, whatever's going on in your family structure. Where are you living now? Where do you want to live? You know, this is 4th house stuff. That is a story. Every house topic is a different story. So when I say that, I want you to reflect on your story in Gemini or any zodiac sign that I talk about. Okay? So Uranus in Gemini is huge, and we're going to get a glimpse into the window. We're going to get a peek through the window of the future in a really serious way starting this summer. Because everything we're seeing in the world right now, everything we're seeing in American politics, everything that we are starting to intuit and starting to see unfold before our very eyes in our own parts of our life, of course, whatever Jupiter has been doing in Gemini for you over the past year, keep an eye and reflect on what Jupiter has been expanding there for you. What have you been learning? What have you been healing? What have you been integrating? Okay, what has been out of control and just like, oh my God, because Jupiter and Gemini will maybe make things a little too chaotic, a little too expansive, bring too many things into your life, too many choices. What have you narrowed down? What have you learned? Uranus is going to come in for 8 years, and Uranus is going to shake things up. It's going to bring unique things into your life. It may cause a lot of disruption throughout the course of 8 years, but this disruption always leads to shifts and pivots and awakenings. You know what I mean? And these trines to Pluto, I cannot emphasize enough. And we're going to talk more about this as time goes on, guys. So don't you worry. We're going to talk about these trines to Pluto. But before I go further, my friends, I just want to say, if you're enjoying this video thus far, if you are new to the channel, I would love if you can consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video, hitting the notification bell, leaving a comment. All of that stuff really helps my channel grow, guys. And I've been seeing such amazing growth here on the channel, and I can't tell you how grateful I am from the bottom of my heart. It is truly a blessing to have such a beautiful community being built here. And yeah, so, you know, I really hope if you're new, you can, you know, think about joining the community here, and all that engagement with the channel really does tickle that algorithm and really makes it share my content and my work. And I've wanted nothing more in my life than to really share my passion for astrology, to be a better teacher. Of course, I'm a full-time consulting astrologer and a teacher of astrology and various other esoteric things. So the fact that this channel is growing is beyond a blessing, and thank you so much for being a part of it. And if there's anything else you would like to learn about me, by the way, guys, just go down in the description box, check out some links. You can go to my website. You can book a 90-minute Zoom reading with me. I would love to meet you. I've been meeting so many of you guys lately, and it's been so wonderful. There's no better time to get a reading, my friends, with all this stuff going on in the world. And don't get it twisted. All our lives are transforming at a rapid rate too. And it's a no better time as well to learn astrology. So I hope maybe I can be a teacher for you as well one day. And speaking of teaching, I have a Patreon as well, and I do some bonus content down. I do bonus content on Patreon. There might be even a bonus video for this video in which I explore further some Decan work with the tarot, because I'm going to talk about the Gemini Decan in just a little bit here, but also on the Patreon, I will explore the Decan in which Pluto is in, and how that Pluto, that Decan, is very much going to be influenced with the Decan, the first Decan of Gemini, as Uranus is transiting there. So there's a lot going on Patreon, guys, and I'm just getting started over there, to be honest. So, you know, if you want to support, I always need to plug my stuff, as always. Now, guys, when it comes to Uranus and Gemini, I'm just going to touch on a few things that I think this is going to bring ourselves, if I haven't said enough already, to be honest. And I am a yapper, so I hope you guys are okay with that. But, you know, on the world stage, there's a lot going on, and there's going to be a lot going on from this point forward in time. I mean, we can reflect on history always in astrology, and there's a lot of astrologers out there doing amazing work. But one of the biggest things I want to say is in US politics, and I promise, guys, for those who don't want to hear about politics, I'm not going into details. I'm not picking sides. I'm not talking about any of the bullshit going on in the world, and I don't want any fighting in the comments, but United States just got off of a Pluto return in Capricorn. Okay? We're now going to have a Uranus return. And the Uranus return is very, very important to keep track of, because the Uranus return always had something to do with a war that America got involved in. Now, I'm not going into details what I think this might be, but the last time Uranus was in Gemini, we had World War II. America entered World War II. The last time before that, Uranus came to a return position in the U.S. Sibley chart was the Civil War. And, you know, and now we have Neptune in Aries, which the last time Neptune was in Aries was also the Civil War. Okay. So we're dealing with very, very linked, synchronistic possible repeating of history with these transits. And before the Civil War, my friends, obviously we had the Revolutionary War, and that was the last time before the Civil War that Uranus was in Gemini, and that is when America was founded. So there is something going on with Uranus in Gemini that triggers global conflict or something that America is involved with when it comes to a collective shift of warfare, of conflict, something that can reshape the world order, something along those lines. Now, what's interesting about this year and why so many astrologers are worried, in a way, because again, I don't like doom and gloom astrology, because if we think about, after all of these kind of horrible times in history, there was always an evolution of consciousness, of innovation, of togetherness, of union, of unity. And maybe this is just part of the fate and destiny, guys, of what we're in store for, you know? And Neptune going into Aries, this is Civil War territory. And just look at what's going on in America. Look what's going on in some other countries in the world. Okay, there's a lot of uprise. There's a lot of left versus right. There's a lot of ideological battles going on. Okay, so of course everyone is primed in a way to have a little bit of a civil war. Maybe this is not going to be a bloody kind, but it will be definitely a battle of the mind, a battle of ideas. And to be quite honest, I think we do have to prepare ourselves for some war. Okay, I don't know where it's going to be. I don't know what countries are going to be involved. I kind of have my intuitions on it, but I'm not going to share them right now. But the fact of the matter is that global themes always involve, with Uranus and Gemini, some kind of conversation, fast-moving, chaos, miscommunication even, and things that can go wrong and wonky on the world stage, even for a brief moment in time, for there to be a trigger of some kind of conflict, war. And we have to prepare ourselves, no matter where you are in the world, for that. But I think it will be fast. These are fast-moving conflicts because we're dealing with fire and air. We're dealing with very fast-moving events. We're dealing with fast-moving themes. And this stuff is also going to be alongside with some of the most powerful evolutions of technology and potentially spirituality. But before we get there, my friends, and I'm not going to talk about Neptune and Aries right now, but there is a very powerful radicalization of religion right now, believe it or not. Okay? A lot of what America is shaping itself into is very much piggybacking on Christian nationalism. And I love all religions, to be honest. I've studied world religion my whole life, but I think there's something very important to be said, an important conversation to be said, in where does the belief of higher powers come into the collective rule of a society? These are conversations we need to have. These are conversations that are going to be birthed with Neptune, a very spiritual planet, within Aries, a powerful zodiac sign, involving what do I believe in? I want to will my belief and my spirituality and religion into the world. I want what I believe in to be the law of the land. So this is part of the beginning of these massive transits, the age of fire and air. Uranus in Gemini, when we talk about fast-moving communication, fast-moving conflicts, fast-moving ideas, fast-moving radical changes in how the world is run. And in our own lives, my friends, in our own lives, this story will be playing out in our own little micro way. So we have to understand, wherever Gemini is in your birth chart, ruled by Mercury, this is a place where our minds and our thoughts and the way we absorb information intellectually is very much part of that theme of life. Okay? And when it comes to things in the world and things in our own lives, these are two completely different stories. And I think one thing we just have to realize about the Gemini part of our life, the Gemini stories, and the Aquarius stories, which again, these outer planets, and yeah, we can bring in Neptune and Aries but this video is not really about that. We are talking about unexpected, surprise, radical change, unique opportunities, daily activities, and people, even within our immediate environments, will very much come to us in very, very spur of the moment, unique and radical ways. And the way that we view that part of our life, the way that we have always come to that part of our life engaged, this is going to be very much changed by Uranus. Okay? Uranus in the 7th house for me in Taurus all these years, I'm telling you right now, it's when I started getting more heavily into astrology, meeting people, right? The 7th house isn't just about love. It's about transactions between people, okay? Like other people, just generally speaking, other people. 1st house of self and identity. The 7th house is others, okay? I've been meeting a lot of eclectic spiritual and astrological people for over 8 years since very much taking astrology and my profession seriously in this field. And yes, I fell in love under a massive transit with Uranus. So sudden events, a sudden revelation that Uranus brought me, the love of my life. So there's a lot that Uranus can bring to all areas of our life. But when it comes to Gemini, we are talking about fast moving, mutable air, the way we think, things that go on in a very intellectual level. Okay? And these trines to Pluto are going to be very powerful for these sudden radical changes and unique opportunities to come to us even in Aquarius. Okay? So whatever Pluto is unfolding for you in Aquarius, this is very much going to be fast, sudden, electrifying. There might be things they have to get torn down to be rebuilt. But because we're dealing with trines, we're talking about a lot of very harmonious things that are going to be very beneficial for us, in my opinion. Things that are going to be very good for us to transform. It's going to speed up awakening. That's really how I feel about this. It's going to speed up any sort of awakenings and any sort of transformations that are beginning to take place in Aquarius for you. You know what I mean? Now, when it comes to where Uranus will be entering the first 10 degrees of Gemini, we are talking about the first Decan ruled by Jupiter, okay? So the first Decan of Gemini is ruled by Jupiter. The tarot card that is associated with Gemini is the Lovers. The card that rules Jupiter is the Wheel of Fortune. And the minor arcana card that rules this Decan is the Eight of Swords. Now, this to me is a battle these first couple of years till 2033, because Uranus will take a couple of years for it to get past 10 degrees Gemini. And those first 3 years are going to be huge for those trines to Pluto. And it's also going to be very big for anything that may have to do with some of these themes involving the tarot, this first Decan, etc. Now, like I say before doing any tarot work with the Decans, which again, we have to take with a grain of salt when we deal with transits, but I do like bringing astrological magic into my work because it does kind of provide like a sense of like, okay, these can be cards we can meditate upon. We can, kind of sink more deeply into, and maybe on the world stage, we can find themes. Because here's the deal, guys. We're in the age of fire and air, and things are going to move very fast. And a lot of us are going to start getting fire under our ass to change our lives. But it's going to take a couple years for us to like acclimate ourselves into this new world. You know what I mean? So it's going to take a minute to get used to this new world. And that's kind of like the main message, I think, of a lot of these outer planet shifts. It's going to take a minute to get used to this new world. We're going to be able to evolve and transform and do very well for ourselves. We're going to have to deal with the collective bullshit, of course. But it's going to take a minute to adjust. And we have to be prepared for that. And the card of Gemini, the Lovers, this to me is obviously a card of harmony and attractiveness and perfection within relationships, but it also represents the duality of life and the concept of choice. Okay, so this Gemini Lovers kind of energy of like picking and choosing life. It's like the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve, just choosing to eat the apple. And now a whole world opens up to them where their fate has been given to them to now have the ability to make choices for themselves. And that's really important to realize about the Gemini nature of things. And this is why overall Gemini is such a beautiful zodiac sign, but at the same time, it is an air sign. And this is why the air signs are ruled by the sword suits in tarot, because the swords are all about the mind, okay, our intellect, making decisions, and the mental disturbances we can even have. And believe it or not, Gemini is ruled by a lot of the heavier cards, the last 3 cards in the sword suits. The Eight of Swords rules the first decan of Gemini. Then the second decan is ruled by the Nine of Swords. And then the last decan of Gemini is ruled by the 10. And this is a progression of, honestly, like mental collapse and mental decay. And then it ends up coming to the 10 of Swords by the time we get to the end of Gemini, which very much is about, a conclusion, an ending, and at the same time, a rebirth. The 10 of Swords is not the most desirable card to get, but depending on where you get it pulled in a reading, or depending on what planet is transiting through Gemini, can very much dictate the flavor of these endings. So, as superficial and fun and flirty and all this stuff with Gemini and ruled by Mercury it is, I'm a Gemini moon, my friends, and I'll tell you right now, my mind is my best friend and my worst fucking enemy. So Gemini definitely has a duality to the mental ups and the mental downs. So these sword suits are very powerful and very powerfully tied to kind of the way that the mind and the psyche can unfold in both the most beautiful and not beautiful ways. So what is the Eight of Swords? The Eight of Swords is this feeling of being trapped and victimized. Okay, and once again, guys, don't get freaked out. We're just exploring tarot education here. But there is a powerlessness to the Eight of Swords. And we're dealing with a decan that's ruled by Jupiter, guys. And I'm going to get to the Wheel of Fortune in a minute, because the card of Jupiter, a decan ruled by Jupiter is beautiful for expansion and wisdom and learning and again, very deep lessons. Okay. And the Wheel of Fortune, in contrast to the Lovers, I would say the Lovers can be represented as free will, right? Free will, an ability to choose, pick and choose. And fate is kind of things we have no control over. It is just, okay, this is the divine fate of Uranus coming into the first decan of Gemini for this first major moment for the next 3 years, making these very powerful trines to Pluto. And Jupiter, during these 3 years, a decan ruled by Jupiter, very much wants to teach us something and expand us somewhere. But at the same time, this is going to be a rough, very unpredictable road as we navigate our new future, this new world that is being born, whether we have conflicts and horror around the world and more suffering or not. And in our own life, when planets transit through Gemini, yes, they are fun and energetic, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes we can get these feelings, the mental, guys. Remember, try to be honest with your psyche. You know that the mind can be our worst enemy. And Eight of Swords is not a card uncommon to our daily experience. This feeling of being powerless or trapped and victimized and feeling like we're not good enough, or feeling like, that there's a situation that's changing and we can't control everything. When we want to control things and we feel just bound, So the first decan, this Jupiter-ruled decan with the Eight of Swords, we could be dealing with energies on and off that involve giving our power away and feeling trapped because of this. I feel something else I have written down here, within my notes, surrendering one's power to an unknown entity, whether it's fate or God, the government, or something else that means you are giving away your own personal responsibility to affect change. You have willingly relinquished your driver's seat in the journey of your own life. So this card means that, hey, something has clamped you down. You need to understand a Jupiter decan, ruled decan with the Eight of Swords associated with it. In a ruled zodiac sign by Mercury, there is something that we need to break free of, some limiting beliefs, okay? And stop putting power into other people. Stop putting power into government, power into things outside of yourself. This is a time where we're supposed to be awakening from within. And that's a Jupiter-ruled decan with Uranus coming in, the great disruptor, the great surprise and radical planet of just awakening, or whatever events and things happen in your life and in the world. We have to come to a place of self-empowerment. So I think this first decan providing Uranus, providing these trines to Pluto, this is going to be the awakening of the people. These first 3 years are going to be huge for uprise, revolution, whatever goes on in the world. And nobody can predict the specifics of what can happen. But it's very symbolic for me to feel like this Eight of Swords moment is going to really awaken people over time from this very victim trapped feeling to awakened, to empowered. And I think that's what we're going to learn as we move forward in these first couple of years. And as we move forward, yes, the Decans in Gemini and in the tarot cards associated with them do get a little bit heavier. Okay, that's why I've been saying the first 8 years of Pluto in Aquarius are going to be the biggest 8 years. Because these first 8 years where Uranus is transiting through Gemini, this is going to be when that's how long it's going to take for us to get familiar with the new world that's getting born right now. Okay, that's just the honest truth. So we need to learn to really tap into the deeper wells of who we are. We need to learn how to get more spiritual and connected to things. Okay, but also to realize that we are the God within. We have the ability to co-create with everything, because God is not necessarily out there. God is within us, constantly asking to co-create. Okay, that's how I believe. There's a lot of non-dual understanding that can come from some of this awakening stuff. Okay, and I think this is really important to keep in mind. And dealing with the Wheel of Fortune, okay, with the card that rules Jupiter, rules this Decan. The Wheel of Fortune is fate. No matter what happens, good or bad, it's going to unfold and there's nothing we can do about it. But what we can do is learn how to ride the wave instead of letting the waves constantly crash upon us. And I think this is very important. This is going to be a very important lesson for the next 3 years. What can we do to ride the waves of change versus let them destroy us? Because otherwise, the Eight of Swords is going to be overpowering everything in your life, and you're not going to know how to transcend that. But again, we have free choice with Gemini. We have this beautiful ability to explore ideas and things in our life that can make this entire Uranus transit so elevating in consciousness and in that part of your life, of course. Like, where is Gemini? Because you're going to be radically awakening and changing in that part of your life. And there's an element of fate that you're not going to be able to control. Okay, these first 3 years are going to be probably the most intense. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm just saying that things are going to be very intense, moving very, very fast. And this is really powerful. Okay, and again, what goes on in the world and what goes in our lives are totally different, And as we progress throughout the rest of Gemini, these Decans, yes, they get a little bit more challenging. But by the end of 8 years, when Uranus gets into Cancer, we're going to be dealing with a whole new evolutionary cycle involving a whole new Decan journey, and also tarot cards and symbolism that deal with water, the cups. Okay, so this is going to be a powerful, transformative moment in history, my friends. And again, yes, the world will be changing in a very powerful way, but so will we. And this is extremely necessary for human evolution. This is extremely necessary for our growth. And there's a lot of beautiful astrology that's also coming. It's just the Gemini parts of our life, the Aquarian parts of our life, these trines are going to be very harmonious. But at the same time, the harmony could be bringing such radical change that it's going to take us a minute. That's why I keep saying here, I wrote it down in my notes, main message, it's going to take a minute for us to get used to this new world. How long will it take us to catch up? Who knows? Keep the faith that the past nature of the world and our transformations will level out and allow us to live abundant and happy. Never stop learning. This is massive for Gemini. Never stop learning, never stop integrating, communicating, and evolving. Everyone, in my opinion, needs to get on social media, needs to write, needs to get their ideas and their beliefs out there, and to realize that you have the power to change the world and the world around you, your community, no matter how big or small your efforts are. Okay? Now, that's all I have for you, my friends. If you want to head over to Patreon, I'm probably going to explore more on this topic and the first decan of Aquarius, and this will maybe provide some further insight on the other cards that will be associated with that first decan, and we can maybe even compare the tarot cards for what I just described in this video with the tarot cards associated with the first decan of Aquarius, and see how we can put some of these messages together. You know, how can these maybe be correlated and connected in some way? Anyway, my friends, this will not be the last time I talk about Uranus and Gemini, but I do hope you enjoyed this video. Once again, like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.